The chamber of the Galactic Council was a cathedral of alien power. Hundreds of banners swayed in the filtered light, each marked with the sigil of a civilization that had survived millennia and carved a place among the stars. Transparent columns hummed with energy, stretching into a vaulted ceiling where lights pulsed like slow-moving stars. Every seat was filled. Every eye, faceted or otherwise, turned toward the smallest delegation in the room. Humanity. Commander Elias Vance adjusted the cuffs of his formal jacket, the dark blue of Earth's fleet uniform catching faint reflections from the chamber's walls. To his right sat two aides, silent, stiff with the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. Before them loomed the raised dais where Archon Vareth prepared to speak. The Velthari leader towered over most species, a columnar form sheathed in metallic scales, eyes glowing faint amber beneath the chamber's lights. His voice, when it came, rolled out like a practiced sermon, smooth and merciless. Humans of soul, Vareth began, the title alone spoken with disdain. You stand accused of violating Treaty 9. Your manufacture of prohibited armaments is confirmed. Your reckless expansion destabilizes nearby systems. And so, by decree of the Council, you are hereby given a choice: dismantle your fleets, submit to oversight, and pay reparations, or face annihilation. The words echoed in a hush. The chamber was so silent Vance could hear the faint buzz of the translator drones circling above. Dozens of alien ambassadors shifted uneasily, murmurs rising in languages that bled into one another. The ultimatum was not unexpected, but the bluntness left no room for negotiation. Vance rose from his seat. His posture was unhurried, hands clasped neatly behind his back. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded by civilizations that had survived empires and wars long before Earth's first satellite had pierced orbit. And yet he smiled. On behalf of Earth, he said, voice calm enough to carry without straying, we thank you. The chamber erupted. Hisses, shrieks, guttural protests filled the vast hall. Species unaccustomed to shock twitched in agitation. Some stood, appendages curling in offense, while others simply froze in confusion. Vareth's amber gaze narrowed, his scales hardening to a darker hue. You thank us? The Archon said at last, voice sharpened. You misunderstand, human. This is no offer of alliance. This is a sentence. Vance tilted his head, as though considering a polite correction. I assure you, Archon, I understood every syllable. You've given us a threat. And in doing so, you've given us something else, clarity. A reason to stand together. A ripple moved through the gallery seats. Some ambassadors leaned forward. Others muttered in disbelief. Vance let the silence build again before continuing. You see, Earth has always worked best under pressure. From the moment we learned to walk upright, survival meant enduring threats greater than ourselves. Climate, predators, war, even one another. You've delivered no curse, Archon. You've delivered a gift. Vareth's form coiled, a predator scenting insolence. You mock this council with your arrogance. Humanity has been among the stars scarcely a century. Do you imagine you can stand against fleets that erased civilizations before your species knew fire? Vance's smile held. I imagine we don't have to. We don't need to match you ship for ship. We only need to remind the galaxy what happens when you corner humanity. History will answer the rest. The chamber shifted again, uneasy, uncertain. Vance let his eyes move across the gallery. A dozen species avoided his gaze, unwilling to show curiosity. But others watched intently, eyes gleaming with something he recognized, doubt in the Council's narrative. Enough. Vareth's voice cut like a blade, forcing silence. You will return to your world. You will deliver our terms. You have 3 cycles to comply. Refusal means erasure. The word hung heavy. Erasure. A cleansing. Not just war, extermination. Vance inclined his head slightly. Understood. He paused, letting the pause do its work. And again, thank you. He sat down. The aides beside him shifted, barely able to contain their tension. Across the chamber, ambassadors whispered furiously to one another, translator drones buzzing like insects over a feast of discord. Later, as the chamber adjourned and delegations filed into separate corridors, Varith descended from the dais. His scaled bulk moved with predatory precision, each step echoing on the polished floor. He stopped directly in Vance's path. "You play a dangerous game, human." The Archon's voice was low now, meant only for him. "Do you truly believe your people can resist?" Vance looked up, meeting all 8 of the Archon's glowing eyes without flinching. "No," he said. "I believe we'll do more than resist. We'll adapt. And that frightens you more than any weapon." Varith's scales rippled, the alien equivalent of a sneer. "Your defiance will be your extinction." Vance leaned in slightly. "Or your mistake." The Archon's eyes burned brighter, but he said nothing more. He turned, cloak dragging across the floor, and strode away with the dignity of one certain of his power. Vance exhaled once, quiet enough that only his aides heard. One of them, a young officer with stiff posture, whispered, "Sir, was that wise?" "Probably not," Vance murmured. "But it was necessary." The officer frowned. "Thanking them? That sounded like surrender." Vance's gaze followed the retreating Archon. His voice dropped, steady as a blade being sharpened. "It sounded like confusion. And confusion is the first step to doubt. Doubt, the first step to hesitation. If they hesitate, even for a moment, we live long enough to make our move." The aide blinked, then nodded slowly. The chamber's doors sealed shut behind them, muffling the echo of alien voices. Humanity's delegation walked the long corridor back toward their transport, shadows stretching across the polished floor. Outside, the stars of Kethra Prime's orbit gleamed against the void, cold, distant, and watching. Somewhere among them, fleets already stirred at Varith's command. But Earth had heard the ultimatum. And Elias Vance had already decided how to answer it. Not with fear. With gratitude, and everything that would follow. The Earth Defense Council chamber was carved into Luna's bedrock, a dome of steel and glass overlooking the curve of Earth far below. From here, the planet looked serene, swathed in white clouds and ocean blue, an illusion that belied the storm brewing in orbit. Commander Elias Vance stood at the center of the chamber, a holographic projection of the Galactic Council's ultimatum frozen above the table. Varith's towering figure glared down, mouth caught mid-threat, his amber eyes alive with contempt. Around the table, Earth's leaders argued, their voices sharp with fear and defiance. President Anika Sharma's hands rested flat on the polished steel surface. "We cannot ignore this. The Council has destroyed civilizations for less. If we resist openly, humanity may not survive the month. Then what's the alternative?" Admiral Stroud snapped, his uniform creased with exhaustion. "Surrender our fleets? Disarm our stations? They'd keep us under their heel for centuries. We'd be the Council's servants, not members." A scientist, Dr. Imani-chan, leaned forward, her voice quieter but edged with conviction. "There's more at stake than pride. Submission means stagnation. Humanity won't stop pushing boundaries, we never have. Sooner or later we'd break their leash, and they'd slaughter us anyway." The chamber filled with murmurs. Vance watched them all, expression calm, hands folded behind his back. When the voices peaked, he finally spoke. "Fear is reasonable," he said evenly. "But panic helps no one. The Archon thinks he's cornered us. He hasn't." Sharma's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Vance activated the table's projector. A star map flared into being, the Sol system at its center. Orbital stations blinked like watchfires. Fleets glimmered as icons, small compared to the Council's armadas, yet positioned with intent. "Our fleets are not designed to match theirs ship for ship. They don't need to. We don't fight like the Council does. We don't line up in grand formations and hurl mass into mass. We innovate. We adapt. We cheat." His tone hardened. "That's what they've never faced." Stroud's stern face cracked into the faintest grin. "Guerrilla warfare. Against a fleet that outnumbers us 10-1. Guerrilla," Vance corrected. "And asymmetric. Think of the Council's fleets, massive, slow, predictable. Built for intimidation. Ours? Small, agile, armed with weapons they can't anticipate. Kinetic lances. Magneto snares. Self-guided drones designed to tear hulls apart from the inside. Every weakness they've hidden under tradition, we exploit. Dr. Chen's eyes lit. And you're counting on unpredictability. Humans don't follow their rules of war. Exactly, Vance said. They assume strength lies in size. We'll show them strength lies in refusal. They can erase a fleet. They cannot erase our will. Sharma studied him, her jaw tight. This is survival, not victory you're describing. Survival is victory, Vance replied. We endure long enough to force the Council to reconsider. Doubt is a contagion. Other species already question Veritha's motives. If we survive the first strike, the galaxy will see we aren't prey. We're precedent. Silence settled. For the first time, the fear in the chambers shifted into something else, possibility. Stroud leaned back, exhaling slowly. So what you said in the council chamber, the thank you. A seed, Vance said. Now we water it. Hours later, aboard the orbital shipyard Kepler Ring, the fleet assembled. Docked corvettes floated in precise rows, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor. Workers in exosuits swarmed like ants across superstructure scaffolds. The air smelled faintly of ozone and lubricant, the soundtrack a symphony of hammering, welding, and distant thrusters. Vance walked the hangar bay with Admiral Stroud at his side. Morale? Vance asked without preamble. Higher than I expected, Stroud admitted. Your council performance is already viral across the nets. Soldiers are quoting you. Civilians too. The phrase thank you has turned into a rallying cry. Vance gave a short laugh. The irony of gratitude as a weapon. They don't see irony. They see defiance. As they passed, crews saluted. A mechanic shouted after them, grease staining his jumpsuit. Commander! If the council wants a fight, let's give him a reason to regret it. The bay erupted in cheers. Stroud raised an eyebrow. Careful what you inspire. Careful is what the council expects, Vance said. They stopped before a corvette sleek and bristling with strange modifications, hard angles, experimental turrets, a dorsal bay lined with drone launchers. Stroud gestured to it. Prototype 3. Magneto snares integrated. Crews eager to test her. She'll be tested soon enough, Vance murmured. Beyond the shipyard, in the dark edges of Sol's orbit, council probes watched. Sleek, needle-like constructs drifted unseen, transmitting constant streams back to their masters. Inside one such vessel, a Velthari observer folded its limbs, eyes glowing faint as it listened to human chatter across unsecured channels. They prepare for war, the observer whispered to its recorder. Their numbers are insignificant, yet their spirit is unbroken. Dangerous. Very dangerous. The message pulsed into the void, racing toward Kethra Prime. Back on Earth, Vance stood in his quarters, staring at the blue planet through reinforced glass. His reflection hovered faintly over the curve of oceans and continents. For a long moment, he allowed the weight of what loomed to press against him. Extinction was not rhetoric. The Council had erased entire civilizations. Humanity could be next. A soft knock broke the silence. His aide, Lieutenant Marin Hale, entered. Sir, message from my family, she said carefully. They're afraid. They want to know if we're safe. Vance studied her. Young, barely 30, eyes sharp but carrying the tremor of someone imagining Earth burning. What did you tell them? That we'll fight. And did you believe it? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Vance allowed a faint smile. That's why we'll survive. Not because we're strongest, but because we believe we can. Marin straightened. Then the Council made a mistake. The biggest they could make, Vance said. He turned back to the window. They gave us a reason to unify. They gave us something to thank them for. The earth turned slowly beneath him, a fragile jewel against endless night. Yet in that fragility, Vance saw fire, the same fire that had carried humanity from caves to orbit. The Council thought it could extinguish that. They had no idea. On Kethra Prime, Archon Varith read the observer's report. His eyes narrowed, scales darkening. "Thank you," he muttered, the human words bitter on his tongue. "They think Defiance buys survival. We'll show them what survival costs." His clawed hand pressed a command rune. Across the galaxy, fleets stirred, engines igniting, weapons cycling. The Council's storm was coming. But on Earth, Elias Vance was already shaping how humanity would weather it, and how they would answer. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council shimmered with light once more. Holographic constellations rippled across the ceiling, glowing faintly above the circular chamber. Delegates filled their seats, 1,000 voices hissing and murmuring in tones that blurred into a low hum. Today, the question was simple and brutal: what to do with Earth? Archon Varith stood tall at the dais, his metallic scales catching the light in cold flashes. He raised a clawed hand, and the hall fell into silence. 3 cycles have passed, Varith declared, his voice carrying easily over the hush. And the humans have not yielded. Their fleets multiply, their stations grow stronger, and their arrogance poisons lesser species with the illusion of resistance. The time has come to end this threat. A roar of approval swelled from his allies, species that thrived on hierarchy, order, fear. Yet not all joined in. Several delegations leaned back, their expressions unreadable, their silence heavy. From the human delegation's modest platform, Commander Elias Vance rose. He adjusted his jacket, his movements deliberate, his face composed. When he spoke, his words cut through the uproar. "Once again, Earth thanks you." The chamber erupted exactly as before, shrieks, curses, disbelief. The Velthari envoy slammed his claws against the dais. "Enough of this insult! Do you take nothing seriously, human?" "I take everything seriously," Vance replied smoothly. "Which is why I choose my words with care. You threatened us, Archon. You sought to frighten us into submission. But what you actually did, what this council must realize, is force humanity into unity. You've succeeded in creating exactly what you feared, a people more determined than ever to survive." Varitha's amber eyes narrowed. "Survival is not defiance. Survival means kneeling." Vance shook his head slowly. "On Earth, survival has never meant kneeling. It has meant standing when standing was impossible. It has meant enduring the impossible, adapting, refusing to vanish. You see our small fleets and think weakness. We see them and think opportunity. Every strike you plan against us will teach us something new. Every loss will harden us. Every death will bind us tighter. That is what you've gifted us." For a moment, silence stretched across the hall. Then murmurs swelled again, not just outrage this time, but unease. Several delegations whispered to their aides. Translator drones buzzed frantically. The contagion of doubt was spreading. Varys struck hard. "You dare to lecture us, upstart? Civilizations far greater than yours were erased in ours. Do you believe yourselves superior?" Vance's voice stayed calm, almost conversational. "No. We don't believe in superiority. We believe in persistence. When nature froze us, we built fire. When famine struck, we invented harvest. When we warred against ourselves, we still endured long enough to reach the stars. And now, here we are, standing before the oldest powers of the galaxy, refusing to disappear on command." His gaze swept the chamber, locking eyes with delegates one by one. "You fear us not because of our weapons. You fear us because you cannot imagine a species that does not accept its limits. That is why Earth thanks you. Your ultimatum has reminded us who we are." The effect was tangible. A dozen species shifted uneasily, recalling their own suppressed rebellions, their own chains of council control. Varys saw it too. His scales darkened in anger. "You speak like a conqueror," he hissed. "But you are prey. Do not mistake your stubbornness for strength." Vance's smile was faint, but it carried. "Then strike us, Archon. Strike us, and show every rising civilization in this galaxy what it means to challenge you. Show them that the Council's justice is fear, not fairness. Show them what it looks like when power crushes potential. And when they see, do you think they will tremble? Or do you think they will prepare, like us? The words landed like blows. Even the translator drones seemed to hesitate before repeating them. The chamber fell into divided chaos. Some shouted for Earth's destruction. Others whispered urgently, calculating the consequences. Varith's plan, to frame Earth as reckless, was unraveling before him. The humans' calm defiance was becoming dangerous, inspiring questions where none had been allowed. Varith's claws dug into the dais. You dare weaponize words against us? Do you believe speeches will shield your fragile world? Vance's eyes hardened. Words reveal truths. And truths are more dangerous than fleets. You could annihilate Earth tomorrow, but the truth will remain. You feared us enough to act. Fear, Archon, is contagious too. A ripple of uneasy agreement swept the chamber. For the first time, some delegates nodded. Others averted their eyes, unwilling to be seen siding openly but no longer chanting for Earth's death. Varith saw the fracture, and it enraged him. His voice dropped to a low growl. Very well, human. If your species demands an example, then it shall be given. I will bring my fleets to Sol myself. And when your ashes scatter across your skies, the galaxy will remember the price of arrogance. Vance did not flinch. He inclined his head as though acknowledging a business arrangement. Then remember this: every ship you send will be met. Every strike will teach us. Every casualty will forge us. You think you will end us, Archon. But in truth, you will only prove us right. He stepped back, leaving silence in his wake. The council chamber seethed. Varith glared down, his power momentarily undermined. For all his threats, he could not erase the ripple spreading through the assembly. Doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. Later, in the corridor outside, Vance walked with his aide, Lieutenant Hale. Her face was pale, her voice hushed. Sir, you practically invited them to attack. I didn't invite, Vance corrected quietly. I forced them to choose. If they destroy us, they expose themselves as tyrants. If they hesitate, they reveal their fear. Either way, the galaxy learns something they didn't intend. Hale swallowed. And if Varith brings his fleets? Vance's eyes glinted. Then we thank him again. Back inside the chamber, Varith remained on the dais long after the delegations had dispersed. His advisors whispered anxiously, but he ignored them. His 8 eyes glowed with cold fury. The humans had turned his ultimatum into theater, and worse, into inspiration. Very well, Varith thought. Let them believe their words could shield them. Soon they would see how little words mattered when fire rained from the sky. But deep inside, beneath his certainty, a shadow stirred. A question he refused to voice: what if the humans were right? The council chamber was darker than usual, the vast ceiling stars dimmed to a muted glow. War loomed in the silence. Fleet reports flickered through the delegates' private screens, Velthari warships mobilizing, entire armadas moving towards Sol. The air in the chamber felt heavy, as though the decision had already been made. Archon Varith stood tall at the dais, scales gleaming like forged metal. His voice rang out across the assembly, filled with finality. The humans refuse compliance. They mock us with insolence. I propose immediate action, complete eradication of their fleets, their worlds, their legacy. Let Earth serve as the warning it must be. His words drew roars of approval from his allies. Yet others hesitated. Delegates exchanged glances, whispers laced with doubt. The fissures were widening. From the human delegation's modest platform, Commander Elias Vance rose for the last time. His jacket was immaculate, his posture steady, his face unreadable. He carried a small case, which he placed gently on the podium before him. Archon Varith, he began, his voice clear. You speak of erasing humanity. You call us reckless, arrogant, dangerous. Perhaps we are. But you misunderstand us. He opened the case. Inside lay a slim datapad. With a touch, the chamber filled with projections, images of Earth, its cities lit against night, its oceans vast and restless, its people working, laughing, fighting, surviving. Then the projection shifted, Earth's fleets in orbit, small compared to the Council's armadas, but bristling with new designs. Corvettes modified with drones. Stations armed with experimental defenses. Prototypes the Council had never seen. This, Vance said evenly, is our thank you note. The words spread through the chamber like fire. You gave us a deadline. In 3 cycles, we achieved unity we hadn't seen in centuries. In 3 cycles, we built weapons you cannot predict, trained crews who would rather die than kneel, and prepared strategies you will not understand until it's too late. You threatened us, and in doing so, you gave us purpose. So again, we thank you. The chamber erupted, but not with uniform fury. Delegates leaned forward, startled by the scale of Earth's preparations. Some hissed in alarm. Others whispered urgently to aides. Varitha's eyes flared. A desperate show. Tricks and toys. Nothing more. Vance met his gaze without blinking. Perhaps. But consider this, if you strike us, we will fight until the last ship burns. And in that fight, the galaxy will see, not weakness, not recklessness, but refusal. Every species you've kept in fear will remember. Every rising world will look at Sol and know they can resist. Destroy us, and you create a legend. Let us live, and you create a rival. Either way, Archon, you lose. The silence that followed was unlike the others. This was not confusion, it was calculation. Delegates whispered to each other, some nodding, some narrowing their eyes, all weighing costs. Councillor Drai of the Alari, a species long under Velthari influence, finally stood. Her translucent form pulsed faintly as she spoke. Archon, perhaps destruction is not the only course. The human speaks truth, fear spreads. Annihilation may destabilize more than compliance ever could. Others murmured in agreement. The chamber was shifting, tilting away from Varitha's certainty. The Archon slammed a clawed hand against the dais, his voice a roar. They are manipulators. They twist words into weapons. This note of theirs is nothing but defiance dressed as gratitude. You cannot allow yourselves to be swayed by such games. Vance did not raise his voice, but it carried. It isn't a game, Archon. It's a mirror. We show you who we are, and you show the galaxy who you are. Choose war, and you reveal yourself as tyrants. Choose restraint, and you admit fear. Either choice exposes you. That's why Earth thanks you, because your threat has already backfired. The chamber rippled with unease. Varitha's allies shouted for destruction, but their voices no longer drowned out the murmurs of doubt. The assembly was no longer unanimous. At last, President Anika Sharma, seated beside Vance, rose to add the final stroke. Her voice was quiet, resolute. You called us dangerous. You're correct. But understand this, we are dangerous not because of weapons, but because of will. And no council, no Archon, no fleet can erase that. So choose carefully. The hall went still. Archon Varitha's eyes burned, his fury barely contained. But he saw the truth, the vote would no longer be unanimous. He could order his fleets alone, but the Council's unity, his greatest weapon, was fractured. To strike without consensus would expose weakness. Varitha's scales darkened. He gave a slow, deliberate snarl. This is not over. Humanity will learn its place. If not today, then tomorrow. Vance inclined his head, calm as ever. Then tomorrow, we'll thank you again. The chamber buzzed with shock. Some laughed nervously. Others sat frozen. The phrase, now repeated, had transformed from insult to challenge, from defiance to doctrine. Later, as the human delegation departed, Lieutenant Hale walked beside Vance, her steps quick with restrained adrenaline. Sir, did we just win? Vance's eyes flicked to the stars outside the chamber's grand windows. We bought time. That's all anyone ever wins at first. And if Varith acts anyway? Then he proves every word I said. Either way, humanity wins something today. She was quiet for a moment, then smiled faintly. You really weren't joking about thanking them. Vance allowed himself the barest chuckle. No, Lieutenant. Gratitude is powerful, especially when no one expects it. On the dais, long after the humans had gone, Varith remained. His advisors whispered around him, urging patience, urging strategy, but their voices barely reached him. His 8 eyes fixed on the human phrase echoing in his mind, "Thank you." It was not submission. It was something worse. It was defiance that could not be crushed without consequence. And for the first time in centuries, the Archon of the Velthari felt something he despised. Not rage. Not contempt. Doubt.